All right, happy Thursday. Welcome to the late week edition of Concrete Jungle, a New York baseball podcast here on FingerLakes1.com. I'm Paul Russo, joined as always by Kyle Evans, coming to you guys live from the FingerLakes1.com studios. And what I can only describe, Kyle, to be a fantastically near tropical Seneca Falls, New York this fine week.
Yeah, the weather's been really good this week. I know I've been outside quite a bit. I did look at the schedule or the forecast next week though, and it seems like it's going to cool back off for a little bit again.
Let's not be like that.
I really wish it would stay, like today, 75, 80 degrees. I love it.
Yeah, it's been borderline impeccable. And I know, like I mentioned, but like I'm really looking forward. Like tomorrow, I'm going up to the Red Wings game, so I'm really looking forward to that. And yeah, I mean, I know you said you've been outside, but if you haven't been outside and taken advantage of this weather in some way, shape, or form, what are you doing? What are you doing with yourself? So, yeah, it's one of these podcasts here that I really look forward to because, like, there's not, I'd say, a ton to really dive deep to in-game talking point-wise. There's a lot of good, like, surrounding stuff to discuss, so we'll obviously handle all that. Title suggests that it's been a really good week here for, the Yankees and the Mets. And obviously we'll dive into the minor league stuff because I do want to discuss an interesting talking point there because I think retrospectively we probably got maybe the teams we expected to be better out of Syracuse and Rochester mixed up. Yep. And we'll jump into that because obviously it's like, they're only 11 games in, 10 games in, depending upon how you look at it, and yeah, there's just a lot to talk about there. So we'll dive into that. But first, brought to you today courtesy of Dewey's Tavern. Dewey's within walking distance of downtown Seneca Falls. Kyle, you've ever been to Dewey's?
I have not.
I recommend you get there because right across Bridge Street Bridge, the famous bridge right there. Yep. So they have Quick Draw, they have Lotto, and 19 TVs for your viewing pleasure for any sporting event. So how about that? Great food for lunch and dinner. Head on down to that bocce, dart, and pool leagues, and you can check them out online at deweysthirdward.com. I'm a big fan, by the way, if you're looking for any recommendations, of the Chicken Philly. Big Chicken Philly guy. But
yeah, I would definitely have that.
Yeah, but they have a ton of their menu is very great, so you can't miss pizza, wing night, sips like that. So head on down to Dewey's and check them out. So let's jump in. We begin with the Mets, and big positive week for them. Got the series win against the Padres. I was finally right. You were finally wrong. But, look, I want to start here because even after the game on Monday, Scherzer was beating himself up pretty good, I thought, for no real reason. He went out and just, frankly, he dominated the Padres. He went 5 innings, which, look, I know what you're saying, Paul. That's not exactly dominating. What are you talking about? Well, to be fair, pitch count got a little bit high, but look, 1 hit, no earned runs, 3 walks, 6 Ks. I mean, that's the Max Scherzer we've come to kind of know and expect here. At least the statistical side of it. Yeah,
and that Padres lineup is a pretty good lineup up and down. You got your mix of right and left-handed hitters in that lineup. And, when you got like Juan Soto towards the top, Manny Machado, like that's tough lineup to navigate. So for him to allow just 1 hit, I thought he threw the ball really well too.
I think a key thing with them, too, and this is something that I think we can kind of discuss here with one of our other talking points, really, to be fair. It's like we talked about on Monday. The season is so young still that it's tough to, like I said, you can't be the Debbie Downer yet in the season. We are in the middle of our second full week of Major League Baseball, So it's tough to say go out and just outright be like, okay, well, it's doom and gloom, right? To me, it's just ridiculous. But this was a good gauge series, a good temperature check series, and we both discussed that, and we went different directions with it Monday. But they get off on the right foot Monday with Scherzer, and it was needed. And it wasn't an easy win either for Scherzer. Him and Nito got into it with the pitch comm I saw because I don't know if they were having like an issue, but Nito ended up calling time, and Scherzer was just like kind of over at that point, the bit of the ordinary guy he is. So they move on. They're fine. it's one of those things. Tuesday didn't go as planned, but you look at the game yesterday, and it just ended up being to me, it was just such a plus overall series for the Mets that I don't want to sit here and talk about the negatives with them because like the diehards do enough of that to the point that, like I was talking on Monday, it just drives me into the ground, So.
I was going to kind of say, I don't know, maybe it's just me, what I see on my social media, but seems like this year, early on, that Mets fans are, like, more negative right now than Yankee fans are, which I haven't really seen a lot in the last year or so, because the Mets had a really good year last year.
Right.
But I don't know, it just seems like a lot of people are down on the Mets. I think they just look at their overall record and see that they're one game above 500, so they kind of just are in a bad spot, but they're not. They've only played 13 games. Like you said, we're only in the second week. They just beat the Padres, a really good team who they lost to last year.
Yeah.
So I don't really know why there's so much negativity right now.
I think it's just the expectation of the season, right? It's, you go out, you sign Verlander, you sign Senga, and you're perceived to be, right, the dominant force in the NL East. And this is something that we can even talk about maybe a little bit right now. Is like, I don't really care. The Braves do nothing for me at the moment. They're relying on not that like it hasn't worked for them, but like you're relying on a lot of young arms again. And frankly, like you look at the series the weekend that they had against the Padres, it's just a lot of empty calorie stuff going on for them in my mind. And I don't know how much they can sustain exactly this year with what they kind of have done so far earlier. I don't know, but that's just me, the way I look at it in the NL East. And I still think, like I said, the Mets are fine. I thought the series against San Diego was proof that they will be just fine. Don't worry, shut up and move along.
Yeah, and I don't know if you were going to mention him a little bit later, but one guy that I did see that performed really well was David Robertson.
Yeah, that's pretty much de facto third talking point because it blends into the Edwin Diaz comments in a way. But yeah, it's interesting, right? And we can circle back to Alonso, but let's do the Robertson stuff now because Buck Showalter's trusted him, right? And the biggest proof of that ended up being yesterday. I know he didn't get the save.
Yeah, he brought him in early.
That went to Ottavino, but it was if you look at it, it was the highest leverage situation in the game in that seventh inning.
Yeah. And
he shut him down. He did what he had to do, and that's what he's been doing all year so far when he's been put in those spots. And I don't want to make it sound like, Robertson's Edwin Diaz. He's not, at least not at this point anymore, right? I think we could, if this was 2013, we could make that case or something like that, but that's simply not the case anymore, right? But, like, the Mets are going to need that continuously through the year, and Robertson's that pro that's going to do that all year for them.
Yeah, I know, obviously fans were let down by the injury news, in the World Baseball Classic, but Robertson, if he pitches the way he is right now, he can fill in that spot just not as good as Diaz would, but I think he can, pick up a lot of saves and really win this team a lot of games. I think he's maybe a little bit underestimated now because he's a little older and he's had some injury problems, in the past couple of years. But if he stays healthy and pitches like this, he's going to have quite a few saves.
Yeah, he's a guy who understands the New York market. Obviously, former Yankee, twice over. But and look, he's pitched in big market sports. I think New York's the only one. He's pitched in Chicago. I consider, at least baseball-wise, Philly to be a de facto big market, even though you can make the case that they aren't exactly. But like he's been in big spots. It's not like he's afraid, I guess, necessarily of that spotlight, if you will.
Yep.
So. Look, Ottavino got the save yesterday. It was his first on the year, but, and he's a guy, too, that the Mets are going to need to rely on, right? I mean, Robertson's going to probably have some bad days here. That's baseball. That's the way it goes. He needs to step up, but the fact of the matter is Buck's turning to Robertson. We kind of expected, in all honesty, a combo between him and Ottavino, but it's been pretty much all Robertson. He's been the high-leverage machine so far for the Mets.
Yeah, and one thing about this team quickly, I saw a couple tweets yesterday from Anthony DiComo of MLB.com, and they are still struggling offensively. I forgot the exact ranking. I'm trying to go find it right now. But their 6 through 9 hitters have like one of the worst OPSs in baseball right now. They're just not getting enough from their offense. I know they just won the series. I'm just saying it seems like the bottom of the order is off to a really slow start, and if they pick it up, I think they'll start winning a lot of games.
Yeah, I think it's Escobar and Nito are both sub 130, I think, or something like that. It's just like when they're both in the lineup, it's bad.
Yeah, the bottom of the order has to pick it up in order for this team to go anywhere, because Lindor, Alonso, and like Nimmo can't carry it every night, and even a guy like McNeil. It seems like he's been a little quiet, but he still had his good games. But yeah, I just feel like if they want to go far and if they want to win a lot of games, they have to have that balanced lineup, and everyone needs to contribute. Like a lot of times you look at the box score, they're winning games, but they have 3-4 hits. You're not going to keep winning games like that if you don't start contributing more.
No, definitely. And look, let's talk about Pete Alonso right now, because he's been the main, to me, he's the, maybe not the exact main, but he's been pretty much like 1A to the offense kind of finally clicking, right? He's found the power stroke at the moment. He hit his 6th home run of the season yesterday.
MLB leading, right?
That's the MLB leading mark right now. 12 RBIs, 7 walks. He has a pretty good WRC plus at 158. Half his hits have been home runs. I know that leaves much to be desired, maybe, and preferably like where you're at, maybe. But like I said, we're also technically day 14 into the MLB season, right? So it's not that big a deal. But we've seen in the past, when Alonso gets going, the Mets pretty much get going lockstep with him.
Yeah, and I did find another stat quickly. Sorry if I interrupted, but
you're good.
They have a 202 batting average of runners in scoring position, ranks dead last in the National League.
Can't happen.
So, like I'm just saying, I know it's early. I get it that they're winning games recently, but that's got to pick it up.
Yeah.
You got to hit with runners on, and they've been really bad.
And look, like Lindor's been on pretty good right here as well. And I think it helps, right? I mean, you have them pretty much next to each other in the lineup in a given game pretty much every day. So that kind of helps a little bit. You can feed off each other and stuff like that. But if there's any consolation to, say, that 6 through 9 issue, 1 through 5 has been doing pretty fine collectively overall. But like you said, Kyle, the 202 with runners in scoring position, that can't happen. Not with the lineup that the Mets have anyway.
Yeah, on paper that lineup is better than what they're putting out offensively. I think they would not be 7-6 if their offense just didn't struggle so much. But I guess maybe it's just early season struggles. Maybe they'll pick it up, coming up in the next couple of weeks, which I think they will. But
yeah, like I said, it's day 14.
Yeah.
All right. Before we get to the weekend ahead for the Mets, Edwin Diaz finally. Now he's been hanging around with the Mets. Obviously, last week we saw him at the home opener. But he's been doing his rehab and therapy and stuff like that at the Citi Field facility. So he's been around the team. He's not like he's hanging out at home type thing. But he made some interesting comments yesterday. It was his first kind of de facto press conference since he had his knee injury. And this is an injury that, we mentioned. This is usually someone that will sideline you a year from competition side of things. But within the press, like I said, de facto presser he had yesterday, he dropped this little nugget. It's courtesy of SNY. I'm feeling great. The doctors say I'm doing great. If the tests come back good, I might throw this year. And I know me just reading the quote makes it sound very mundane, but the way that he said it, with the context, made it sound like, and he was very specific, it sounded like he was legitimately targeting September as a comeback. And apparently, I was reading this morning, apparently he's been walking around without crutches now. So like they're beginning some of the truer physical therapy side of things for him. But it's tough. I want to start here. I guess we'll start here, Kyle. What were your immediate thoughts with the quote that he gave?
Well, it was kind of shocking, but at the same time, more times than not with these pitchers working their way back, there can be setbacks, rehab, something can go wrong in the rehab. So, it's probably encouraging for Mets fans to hear that, but at the same time, you can't get your hopes up. It's going to really still take a lot of work to get him back and build him up to where he was. But if he does make a return, that's big. But at the same point, you don't know what you're going to get immediately from him. I think he would need several games to get back to his normal self.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he'll play a huge impact this year, but if he does get back, that's quite the recovery.
I suppose this is where the next question comes in, because I know how I feel about it, and it's probably different than, say, the way Mets fans and maybe even personnel do feel. I don't know if I want him back this year in that sense. You have to think about long-term and short-term. Now, you don't want to risk the longevity or long-term of this, right? Now, it's a little bit different. It's not what we're talking about, say, like Kevin Durant, in the NBA. But at the same token, look, this, Kyle. Pitchers, everything is we talk about throwing, but everything's from the legs, right? Everything's waist down with pitching. If he were to tweak it, if he were to rush back, for instance, we're talking a bigger issue here within this 5-year contract, for example. So I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of all for him coming back. I don't necessarily mind it, but at the same token, for the longevity of both sides, I don't think I'd want him to come back. It's one of those I see both sides of the coin.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if the training staff is to me, based on those comments, maybe he does feel great, but I'm wondering if he's going to try to push himself too hard, and that's not ideal. I think the training staff's probably going to try to slow him down a little bit. Even if he is feeling good, you just never want to, tweak something while you're rehabbing or, have any setbacks. So I don't know. I still kind of feel like it's a long shot, but I do like his confidence, him being positive towards, the comeback, but I don't know.
And I mean, who knows, right? I mean, maybe they kind of allowed him to go down that path talk-wise yesterday because they believe it as well. I mean, I haven't seen any blowback from the organization.
Yeah, the team really hasn't said anything.
So maybe there is some validity there, and we're reading maybe too much in between the lines of it or something like that. I don't know. Let's discuss, though, the Mets off today, travel day here on Thursday, but they're heading west for the first time this year. Day off today, as I mentioned. Then they have 3 against the Oakland A's. We'll jump into more about that in a second. Tomorrow night, Friday, 9:40, first pitch on SNY. Kodai Senga, 2-0 with 1.59 ERA against former Yankee prospect James Caprillion. Good to see him still hanging around with the A's.
Yeah.
0-1, over 11 ERA for him. Saturday on 4:07 on your local Picks affiliate, Carrasco against Shintaro Fujinami.
What a name.
Well, a lot of high hopes for him, but he has not done so good so far.
I can tell.
Yeah, 0-2. Also, very impressive 17.5 ERA. And then on Sunday, also on your Picks affiliate, 4:07 first pitch, Scherzer against J.P. Sears, another former Yankee farmhand, and big leaguer for that matter with them. Look, I'm not saying you have to go out and sweep the A's, but you have to win the series, and for lack of a better term, you got to wax them in my mind if you're the Mets. That being said, you don't necessarily have to, but you got to do this convincingly in my mind this weekend,
If that offense can't get back on track against this A's pitching staff, then I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Because they've been giving up tons of runs, even to the Orioles this past series.
And look, the A's have a game today. They don't have a rest day on this travel day back.
Yeah, and we're looking at some of these starting pitchers, their stats, they're not good. They've been hit really hard early on, and with this Mets lineup, they should be able to do damage. And if they don't, I don't know where Mets fans are going to be after this series. And actually, I was looking. This is, a 3-game series, but it's a 10-game road trip on the West Coast. It's a very long trip.
And
so you want to start off right.
and not to look ahead, right? But I mean, next week they have the Dodgers at the front of the week. You know, that's you go from the Padres to the A's and then to the Dodgers. I mean, outside of Oakland, those obviously are the teams that you're gonna be seeing no matter what when push comes to shove.
I truly believe that this needs to be a series sweep. I know it's still good if they win the series, but based on this team, I think it's got to be a series.
Yeah,
sweep.
I mean, I agree, but baseball works in funky ways. That's why I said, I mean, you take the series win if it's just like convincing 2 games, right? Like, I'm not saying like 11-0 beatdowns, but like 7-1s, 8-1s, something like that, where you aren't questioning about anything. So there I am, at least backtrack on what I just said about the past 20-ish minutes about the Mets. But either way, let's transition, head over to Cleveland, where the Yankees took another 2 of 3 series win against the Guardians. Look, we'll start here, much like we did with the Mets, but for the Yankees ace, Gerrit Cole, again, it's weird. This start was a lot like a 2022 start. Out of the gates rough, but just shut it down when it mattered. And I don't know if I want to go quite down this path yet because, again, we're 14 days into the season. But, like, he's looking about as good as he ever has, to be quite honest, if not the best he ever has, in my opinion. I don't know how you feel, but like if this is a Gerrit Cole we're going to get all year, the Yankees got to be feeling really confident.
Yeah, and I don't know if you watched that game that was like the series opener when he started.
Mm-hmm.
Those 2 runs he gave up both came in the first inning. I still don't understand. Even everyone on Twitter, the writers were tweeting it out. Gleyber Torres should have been charged with an error on a routine backhander, and he wasn't, which made the runs both charged to Cole. So in my mind, I really, truly believe Cole should have no earned runs so far this season. But it is what it is. He settled in after that anyway. Only gave up 2. I think he's pitched, 19 innings, 19 and 2/3 innings.
Yeah.
Only giving up 2 runs, so whatever, either way. But honestly, sometimes around the league, I don't get how these official scorers love to give the home teams, hits when they're just not hits. They're errors, and that keeps happening. That happened in Baltimore, too. I think it was a routine ground ball for somebody, and they gave him a hit. And it's like, why? Just because you're the home official scorer?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. But, yeah, I mean, I not to look too far ahead per se, but, like Cole is slated to pitch against Minnesota on Sunday, and, his ERA went up to 1.40. It's like, it's just one of those things where it's like you kind of look at it, like, look, he's going to have some bad games here, like, eventually. That's just the way baseball kind of operates, But, man, it's one of those things where you look at it, it's like, I really feel like we might be witnessing the apex, at least at the moment, of Gerrit Cole. Like, it's one of those things where I don't think he's come out of the gates this strong. And I could be wrong, but visually anyway, he just looks like he's just better than others.
Yeah, this is his first time as a Yankee where he's coming out really strong right out of the gate. He did have less strikeouts this past start against Cleveland, but a lot of people forget this point that Cleveland doesn't strike out a lot. They have quite a few contact hitters, and they put the ball in play. Even like Clark Schmidt yesterday, he only had 3 strikeouts. I know he has struggled anyway, but just the Yankees pitchers weren't getting a ton of strikeouts because guys like Stephen Kwan continuously just put the ball in play.
Yeah, I mean, Jimenez, Rosario, Ramirez.
Yep.
The only true strikeout. Well, they have 2 true strikeout guys this year. I forget that Mike Zunino is a Guardian now, but
but he destroyed the Yankees.
Right, but Josh Naylor's really the only person you have to worry about necessarily strikeout wise. But even then, he'll take it counts deep. Like, he battles pretty tough and everything like that. But that's kind of what we expect out of the Guardians now at this point. And I'm happy that we got that you're through the Guardians at this point because they're a team that kind of starts, I'd say, a little bit slower, but by the time May comes around, they're usually hitting their stride pretty good and everything like that. So, you mentioned yesterday, and Schmidt talked about a little bit. I remember going into the game about how he feels like with each go, mind you, even he said it's only 2 games, but there's progression there. I thought there was some more progression yesterday even too, but I don't know if this is sustainable at this point. But the Yankees come back and they got the win. But to me, the big talking point kind of yesterday, at least within the moment, is Oswaldo Cabrera. We kind of have been, I wouldn't say wondering, but which one of these young guys is going to have their moment kind of first. And to be fair, it might have been Oswaldo Cabrera here. Gets to, if not the best closer in the game, arguably the best closer in the game in Emmanuel Clase, and pushes the Yankees over edge to get the victory.
Yeah, when he walked up to the plate, just after, I forgot who got out, but anyway, when he walked up to the plate, I just thought it was a perfect matchup. Oswaldo's been super confident at the plate, swinging the bat really well, and just the way Clase looked yesterday, he's still really elite, but he didn't seem like he had his best stuff yesterday. So I thought it was a perfect matchup, and next thing you know, Oswaldo lines one off the wall, and I'm like, wow, like that's a huge hit, because if that game kept going, the Yankees kind of already used their high leverage relievers, so it was kind of getting to the point where a guy like maybe Jimmy Cordero was going to come in for extra innings, and I think maybe the Guardians might have pulled out a win. So I thought that was a huge hit, and hopefully he continues to play really well. Yeah,
and I to me anyway, I'm a big Oswaldo guy. I think he brings a lot to the table, and I wouldn't say you look at the lineup yesterday, but like it was an interesting lineup. Like we had Volpe led off. Was it yesterday? Volpe led off, yeah.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say it was like a throwaway game, but yeah, like IKF was in there and Hicks, and I mean I know it's a little bit different because IKF more or less had to play yesterday, right? I mean, and we'll get into that here in just a moment, but it was one of those lineups like you look at and you're like, well, I wouldn't say this is looking the best case for the Yankees here, but I mean, those are games, that are big, that you kind of pull out and you get that matter this time of year. And, we could have, I guess, this minute conversation now, especially in the case of the Yankees, they're tied for second at 8-4 in the division. And normally that'd be probably tied for first this time of year, but because the Tampa Bay Rays are just 12-0, and I don't understand what the hell is going on down there, it's not the case. This is where games like yesterday are really, really big.
All right, so before this Red Sox series, you give the Rays credit. They're 12-0. It's hard to win 12 games regardless of their opponent. But now, they're still winning against a team like the Red Sox, who isn't great. But the Red Sox put up 7 runs yesterday, and they still lost. It just seems like no matter what happens, the Rays are on the right side of things, and they just continue to win.
Yeah.
And, I mean, to get the Red Sox today, who they have this afternoon, actually, they have a chance to sweep them. So 13-0 to start the year, insane.
Who's pitching today? Do you have it up or?
It's going to be. Sorry,
you're good. I didn't know if you had it up.
It's Jeffrey Springs for the Rays.
Oh,
who's been really good. I mean, all their pitchers have been really good. And I'm trying to load for the Red Sox. It's going to be Corey Kluber, who is 0-2 with a 6.48 ERA and cannot beat the Rays.
It's just wild. So I guess we're staring on the gun of 13-0,
but hopefully we do say this now and they lose, because I'd love for that to happen.
Right. I mean, it's baseball, right? They're not going 162-0. This is not possible.
Even though people still tweet it out.
Right. I mean, hey,
just for the views.
Right. I mean, why not? But but like I said, I mean, when in a situation like this where you're already 4 games behind, not through anything of your own doing.
But then you look ahead, starting tomorrow night, they get Toronto in Toronto, so maybe that's where the losses finally pick up. Hopefully, I would say. Yeah. And then after that, they get the Reds. I don't know. They could really go on a run, and if they run away in April, all these teams are going to have to try to catch up ground, and it's going to be tough.
And to that end, I believe they'll get the Reds' top end of the rotation for them because, look, the Reds are a semi-mess, but they've been scrappy. Ladulo's pitching today, and if you haven't watched him for what it's worth, you got to. And Hunter Green yesterday was just incredible. So, the 2 young guns there in Cincinnati are really good, and unfortunately, this isn't Skyline Chili, a Cincinnati baseball podcast, but if you're a baseball person and you want something to watch, I recommend you watch the Reds Phillies day because Ledullo's pitching and he's just good. So, anyway, let's get back on track here. Move on to Franchy the Frenchman Cordero. All right, Kyle. He is actually on a team historic beginning at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely incredible. So left-handed batters with 4+ home runs and 11+ RBIs through their first 7 games of a season in Yankee history. Babe Ruth did it twice. Yogi Berra, Paul O'Neill, and Cordero. Not bad company.
Yeah, it just literally feels like he's playing the way. I know people say this a lot on Twitter, but it feels exactly like the Matt Carpenter stuff last year. Left-handed hitter, always producing in big spots, hitting home runs, just doing every little thing to help out the team. And I don't know how long this is going to continue, but it's been a hell of a start to the season. He leads the team in RBIs. I never thought that would happen with Judge and Stanton on the team and both healthy.
Yeah.
So just a great start, and they would not be 8-4 if it wasn't for him.
Now, history would suggest that he will be coming back down to earth sooner than later, but for what his deal is, the $1 million at the big league level and, high end at the AAA level, if he were to get sent down, what a steal so far. And I guess thank you to Baltimore for cutting him at the end of spring training and allowing him to more or less just become a Yankee.
And he hit 400 in spring.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't think anyone will understand it. Like, if the guy's producing well in spring training, how did he not win a job, at least a bench spot? Like, it's mind-blowing to me still. But, the Yankees picked him up. They saw something in him, and it's paying off. So hopefully he continues.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely wild. And it's honestly one of the undercurring, really good baseball stories, what's been going on with him. Because, I've called him now for pretty much all week. He's a journeyman prospect. He's bounced around from team to team because he was a high-level guy, whether it was the Padres or the Royals, and whether things didn't work out or for whatever reason they just didn't. Ends up in Boston at the second half of last year, does all right, but not enough to get the invitation back. And, I mean, who knows? Maybe this is the start of a really good career for a guy who we had high hopes for as a collective baseball, fandom unit, but just didn't happen off the bat. But it's happening pretty quick here to get going in the 2023 season.
Yeah, he's not having like 2, 3, 4 hit games necessarily. To me, he's clutch. He's coming up big in big moments. Like yesterday, he's 1 for 4, but that one hit was huge. So, I don't know, just a perfect fit with Bader coming back soon. Mm-hmm. The outfield's going to get a little tricky, but you got to give the guy at bats, even if it's just DH at bats. If you're putting Stanton in the outfield too. But the guy has got to be in the lineup if he continues to produce like this.
I mean, I was going to say this might solve a little bit of the Yankees' issue in the outfield because maybe not necessarily outfield, just because it's the way their positions are listed, right? But, I mean, you bring up a good point, and he probably locks in at DH, at least against the righties, kind of going forward once Bader gets back. Good segue by you. Just general injury updates, and we'd be here for a while more if we had to list through them all, but Lou Trevino, Carlos Rodon, Harrison Bader, and Josh Donaldson, they've all either began or have continuously done baseball activities here for the past really 5 days. It's kind of been said. Boone finally kind of said a couple of days ago about everybody and was like, they were doing this 2 days ago and this yesterday and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, well, that's pretty good. The stuff's coming back around. Obviously, we kind of knew about Rodon anyway.
He throws a bullpen this afternoon.
Yeah, and I mean, we could circle back to the Severino thing, but we talked enough about that on Monday. But all systems appear to be good with him, so that's pretty good. But a couple of things to make note of, at least with the current roster. We had Gleyber Torres and DJ LeMahieu both not in the starting lineup yesterday, respectively. Gleyber did come in. He's dealing with a hip flexor issue, tightness there. Excuse me. But he did pinch run. He was available, as was DJ yesterday, and Gleyber was the only one used. But pinch run situation, said he felt fine, but he did feel the injury kind of pop up a little bit when he was running. But he said all things considered, he's fine. It appears as though DJ might be the one where there's at least a little bit more concern at the moment. He's dealing with quad tightness. He's considered a true day-to-day, even though both are considered day-to-day. But I don't know at this point because you have to just look back to last week with Donaldson. So, I expect neither to miss extended time or anything like that. Honestly would probably expect them to be back in the lineup. Maybe not tonight, but for sure probably Glaber something like tomorrow if everything just feels good and feels fine today.
Yeah, as soon as I saw Glaber come off the bench yesterday, I knew that it wasn't serious at all. In fact, in my opinion, whether it's even DH or not, I think he'll be in the lineup tonight. But the guy that I am a little worried about is DJ LeMahieu. With quad tightness, you just never know how severe it is, and it just sucks because he's dealt with a lot of injuries the last year or so.
I was going to say, he's had quad issues before.
So, to me, I would not be surprised if in a couple hours we see that he's going on the injured list.
Yeah.
But, he had been swinging the bat really well. He was, producing well in that leadoff spot again. It looked like his old self, hitting the ball to all parts of the field. So it would suck to lose him again, but maybe it's not as big a deal as I think it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, they're considering, like I said, it's day-to-day, but, I mean, with stuff like that, you just don't know.
Yeah, he called the Donaldson thing day-to-day,
yes,
so
exactly. But, yeah, speaking of that, the Yankees back in the Bronx, 4 games against the Twins. Tonight, 7:05 on Yes or MLB Network. Joe Ryan goes for the Twins against our guy, Johnny the Burrito Brito. Tomorrow night, 7:05 on Yes, Tyler Mahle against Nestor Cortez. Saturday, 1:05 on Yes, Kente Maeda against Domingo Germán. And Sunday at 1:35, first pitch on Yes. Really, this is that one game that we always kind of circle and talk about sometimes, but early battle for the AL Cy Young, Pablo Lopez against Gerrit Cole. So,
perfect Sunday matinee.
Yeah, I mean, couldn't ask for a better one there. That being said, I don't know if we get another Yankee series victory here. I'm getting 2-2 vibes for whatever reason. I know it's the Twins. It's just one of those vibe things I'm getting that I don't know if we get the series. I don't know if we see the series win here. It's either going to be 2-2 or 3-1 Yankees. I'm leaning 2-2 though, a true split.
And I'm feeling a 4-game sweep. No.
Whoa.
I could see 2-2, but I'm just going to say it 3 out of 4. The only loss will come Saturday.
Mm-hmm. That would be the Germán Maeda game.
Yep. I think Maeda bounces back and Germán struggles. Continue.
Yeah, I love how you're just like, move on. You don't want me to bring up Kenta anymore.
But before we move on quickly,
sure.
Joey Gallo went on the IL, so we won't see him back in the Bronx, which is a little unfortunate. Because I guess it is kind of fortunate for the Yankees, because knowing the storyline, he'll probably come back and hit a homer against them in Yankee Stadium.
Well, yeah, but I feel like most Yankee fans want to see him do well. I mean, he's kind of like the Sonny Gray guy where it's like it didn't work out here, but I'm
fine with him doing well if it's not against the Yankees.
Go out somewhere and do good. So, all right, before we get out here, much to talk about here quickly in a short amount of time regarding Rochester and Syracuse. Both have split so far in their series for the week. Syracuse down at Scranton, Rochester home against Buffalo. But it's interesting. It's kind of a tale of two different teams here in two different spots that we didn't expect. And we'll talk about that in a second. But, just as an example, right, Syracuse, they've split the series so far, but they've outscored Scranton 16-11 in the series, or 16-13, apologize. 16-13 in the series so far. It's kind of crazy. Their offense has just been nuts. Whereas Rochester, I mean, the offense came alive yesterday a little bit, but their offense is struggling bad. I mean, look, Syracuse at the top of the International League-ish. They're tied for third. Rochester tied for 18th. It's a tale of two teams so far to start the year.
Yeah, one team is really struggling on offense, which is Rochester, who I wrote down the stat here, has scored 2 runs or fewer in 7 of the 10 games.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
And then you look at Syracuse, they've scored 68 runs in 11 games. a lot of high-scoring games, even if they've resulted in losses. Their offense has been insane, and it's mostly highlighted by some of the big prospects down there right now in Syracuse.
Yeah, that's where we can circle back to this. So let's look at that. Brett Beatty, Mark Vientos, and Ronnie Mauricio. Look, like Vientos, the thing with Syracuse, they have 8 batters currently eligible for leading the International League in average, for example. Of the 8, 6 are above the men, or 6 are, or no, rather 5 are above 500 or 300. The 6th is like, I think it's 6 points below 300, and then the other 2 are, one's above the Mendoza line and one is below it. But it's like, I think this is where we can introduce this conversation, right? The experience factor at AAA. I think we inadvertently kind of forgot that like Syracuse will go have some experienced guys there that played at Syracuse last year and know, say, the AAA what to do and what they need to do. And that's highlighted by, like, look, Vientos is second on the team in average. He's batting like 351 or something like that. It's just something absurd. Mauricio is leading, tied with Vientos, I think, in home runs. And Beatty's just overall this good, right? And then you look at Rochester, where it's a little bit of a different case. Like, yeah, the prospects are there, and it's a little bit different, right? But like a guy like, say, Darren Baker, this is the highest he's ever been. Like, he has fast-tracked himself through the system of Washington pretty good.
And Jeter Downs just got called up.
Right, I was about to say, he got called up, but like, yeah, maybe the growing pains we saw with Syracuse last year is what's going to actually happen in Rochester this year. And it's tough because AAA's and minor league in general, it's hard to gauge because of the ever-changing roster landscape we always talk about. And it's not like 1960 when Luke Easter's playing in Rochester and we know exactly he's going to be there year in and year out type thing. But, I think, we probably collectively, me and you, did a misread on what to expect. And look, I think the Syracuse team's really good. I hope the pitching for them is the one that actually holds out. I think the offense will hold out fine, but, Syracuse has looked really good. And I don't think it's all lost for Rochester. Like, don't get me wrong, but they need to get going offensively before I feel confident in them to begin to make some noise again.
Yeah, they're simply like not even scoring 3, 4, 5 runs a game more times than not. It's literally 2 or nothing. Yeah. It's really bad, and we're 10 games in, so you would think it would change eventually, but they are facing Buffalo this week, who, it's 1-1 right now in the series, I believe. But Buffalo's a really good team, so I don't know. Before the end of the week, what could they be? 2-11, 2-12, or whatever it's going to be. That's brutal.
Yeah, it's weird. I have some faith there. Buffalo is an interesting team. They go through pitchers quite a bit if you look at the box score, so hopefully, the Red Wings kind of gets them a little bit here. But for the sake of me, I hope they do for tomorrow, Friday night. So
isn't it exactly like flip-flopped from last year? Didn't Rochester get off to a good start?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
And Syracuse was like 2-10, 2-12 or something?
Rochester was top the International League before they went on that losing streak. So
everything's flip-flopped.
The International League East, so the way they're doing it this year is a little bit different, so whatever. All right, so that will take care of Concrete Jungle for the week. We'll be back doing our early and late stuff again next week, Monday and Thursday. I think that's pretty much it. It's weird. Like I said, there's not a ton of in-game stuff to talk about. Just like some great talking points early in the season that were today. And it's always nice to have conversation like that compared to sometimes what we usually have to do.
Yeah, and hopefully these teams, keep continuing on the right foot, especially for Rochester. They need to really get going here. Yeah, definitely agree with you there. So if you can't watch us live on YouTube, catch up anytime, YouTube, Spotify, all that fun stuff. And we will talk with everybody next week on Monday. So have a great weekend, everybody. Get outside, enjoy the weather, and we'll talk to everybody then.